of webinar series that has been created to sort of bring everyone market, industry, consumer insights, and analysis that's crucial for you and corporate success, everyone's success, everyone to make money. Now, the series usually features lots of leading professionals of FBN Quest, as well as other industry experts with experience in corporate or private investment, wealth preservation, wealth management, advisory, and all of those sweet things that will make your money grow. That's really what we do. And we are hoping that we would open your mind to a world of opportunities through these sessions on investment, on growing your money, and we are so looking forward to engaging with you. Now, this session is going to run for 1 hour, and we have 2 fantastic speakers with us. So I'm going to quickly introduce them. The first person is Bolaom Ologoro. Bolaom is an associate portfolio manager at FBN Quest, with prior experience as a portfolio manager at ARM, senior research analyst. You know, he has expertise in portfolio management, macroeconomics, research, financial modeling, and all of this good stuff. So basically, this guy knows how to grow your money. And he's also a member of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. Please give a very nice welcome to Bolaom for us. Please use your emojis, you know, use your charts. Let's see what's happening. Welcome, Bolaom. Thank you for joining us. You're mute, Bolaom, if you're saying hello. I know you want to say hello.
Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon. Lovely to have you. Lovely to have you here. Thank you. And the second person I'm having here today as well, I did tell you we're bringing lots of great people. The second person is Abiodun Adedotun, who is a senior sales trader at FBN Quest Securities with over 12 years of experience in the financial sector. He has comprehensive knowledge of the equities market from his time at WSTC Financial Services, and he's also an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers and an authorized dealing clerk on the Nigerian Exchange Limited. Wowza. Please welcome on board, Abiodun.
Thank you, Shola, for me. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So we're about to start the session, but first thing, I want you guys to know that we have a Q&A session after this program. So please start dropping your questions in the chat box. I promise you that I'm going to grill these guys and they're going to speak to us in the simple language that we can all understand. We know that when it comes to investing, the sort of issues people have is all of these big financial jargons and all of these words, but these guys, they have the experience and they're going to break it down for us in layman terms as much as possible. So I'm so looking forward to them. Put your questions as we go on in the chat box. And before we go to the very first question, actually, I have a question for you. I'm going to do a very quick poll. Now, I want to ask everyone on this call, and I want you to pick either A, B, C, or D. We're going to have a poll running. And the question is, do you have any equity-based investment? So do you have any equity-based investment? So yes, you have, no, you don't, or I'm not even familiar with this investment, this sort of investment at all. So please answer your questions quickly for us. So I cannot vote. Okay. Are you guys voting? Can we see the votes? Beautiful, fantastic. So 50% of us say we do have equity-based investment. Beautiful. So we already have some information. 17% of us do not have it, don't understand it. And the final set of people are people who are not familiar with this sort of investment at all. So this is a brilliant way for us to start, because I know that our very first question is going to Abiodun. So Abiodun, very quickly, break it down for us. What is equity and what is an equity fund?
Thank you, Shola, for me. Okay, pretty much. Without using a big word, right? People will most likely be familiar with the word shares. Oh, people are buying shares, they're buying stock. Equities, shares, stocks are used interchangeably. So, and I'm speaking to that person who might be wondering, what is shares, right? Just imagine on a birthday, you have a cake and you decide to cut it among your friends. Everybody gets a piece of the cake. That is the share of the cake. So bringing it to real life scenario now, imagine there is a business. Say, for example, our beloved company, First Bank Holdings. Now, people who are owners of this are owning a piece of this cake. So it's a share or your portion of an investment or of an entity. That's why we call it share, equities, stock. Now, that's pretty much describe the word equities or shares. Now, when you talk about fund means people pulling money together to give to an entity, someone, a professional to manage. So pulling money together to give a professional to manage. So you bring those words together to say pulling money together to give a professional to invest in buying of shares, stocks, securities, stock, shares, equities. So equities-based fund, the fund is meant to invest in equities, which are basically shares.
Thank you very much, Abiodun. Very sweet, concise, meaning that a share is a tiny piece or a very tiny piece of a cake that anyone can have. And if you own that portion of the cake, you own a tiny piece of the company. And like you said, companies like First Bank, you can own a tiny piece. Imagine owning a tiny piece of company. As you're walking into the First Bank branch like this, you will just be telling yourself, I'm the owner of this bank. Don't go and say too much, you can, but just you are the owner of the bank as you walk in. So that's basically what an equity is. If you buy a share, you own a tiny piece of that particular company that you bought a share in. Thank you very much, Abiodun. I'm going to go straight next to you, Bolao. This next question is really about investing. So in very simple terms, who is a smart investor, or what makes someone, how or why can we call someone a smart investor?
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to say that there is a general misconception with regards to who a smart investor is. And to that extent, I would say a smart investor is not someone who is able to multiply funds within a very short period of time, or let's say overnight. So you transform 25,000 to 50,000, let's say within 2 or 3 days, or you multiply 50,000 to 100,000 in a very short period of time. And that's not what defines a smart investor. So what then, or who can we regard to as a smart investor? So a smart investor is someone who is able to mobilize resources and then utilize those resources in generating income or returns on a consistent basis. So it's the consistency that matters, as opposed to you just multiplying funds or multiplying resources within a very short period of time. So I would say that the key feature to distinguish between that smart investor, or to identify who a smart investor is that ability to be able to judiciously utilize resources in generating returns on a consistent basis.
Amazing. So you say that what you mean is that a smart investor is not a one-hit wonder. It's not that you do it one like this, you eat, then you are fine. No, it is someone who consistently, and I'll believe over the years, is able to generate funds in different, or generate good returns in different climates, bull, bear market, whatever the market situations, but able to generate good returns. That's who a smart investor is, and I really, really like that. Thank you for breaking that down for us. Now I'm coming to you, Abiodun. Are there any investment strategies or categories that investors need to be aware of before deciding on the fund that they want to invest in? You told us what an equity fund is, pulling money together. So is there any specifics that people need to be aware of, strategies, all of those things that they need to be aware of before deciding on putting their money in a particular fund or not?
Thank you, Shola, for me. Okay, yeah, of course. Before deciding on what to invest, just to buttress what my colleague Bolan said, you have to be consistent. You have to make conscious efforts. Now, conscious efforts the first thing you do is, I want to invest. What are my objectives? What am I trying to achieve? how do I go there? Because the journey to an the going to into investment, it's more like a journey. It's not a destination. How do I get from point A, where I am today, to becoming the billionaire I intend to be? You know, it's more like you need to plan. So in the course of those plans, a whole lot of questions will be asked. Questions like, what level of risk can I tolerate? You know, will I worry if, say, today I put ₦1 million in an investment, and in a month's time I'm looking at it and I'm seeing that, oh, it's lost a little bit, or will, you know, things like that. Then to what extent, what period, what's the holding period I'm looking at in terms of investing? So this is going to really help guide what type of fund is really meant for you. So for example, you want to do an equity-based fund, right? Pretty much equities-based fund is looking at shares, which is going to look at holding period of medium to long term. You would not want to say, oh, I want to put a 30-day money in an equities-based fund. It's a misfit. If you try that, you are most likely going to get burnt. So it's more like you need to set the objectives, set the parameters carefully, then you see what really fits your profile.
Thank you very, very much, Abiodun, for breaking that down. So what you've said is that for us, when you want to decide on investment, you definitely need to know your risk appetite. If you're one of those people that if 50 naira removed from your money, you'll be having a heart attack, then you need to understand the sort of investment you're doing, and same thing around your time horizon to understanding how those investment fees. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us. Now I'm coming back to you, Bolan. What makes the smart beta equity fund different from other investments like the money market fund that most of us have probably heard about? So what's the difference with the smart beta equity fund?
So for the FBN Smart Beta Equity Fund, it's a fund that is geared towards providing long-term capital appreciation for investors. I mean, by investing in diversified companies listed on the stock exchange market. So unlike, the money market fund, the key investment objective is to provide capital preservation and to also provide liquidity on a short-term basis. However, for the Smart Beta Fund, emphasis is on long-term capital appreciation. So how are you able to preserve the value of your wealth over a long period of time? So if you are a high-risk investor, the Smart Beta Fund is a fund that accurately takes into account your investment characteristics, which is you being focused on generating or preserving your wealth over a longer period of time, as opposed to a low-risk investor that would typically invest in a money market fund where the key investment objective is to preserve your capital and provide liquidity on a short-term basis.
Amazing. Thank you so much for breaking that down. So you're saying that the Smart Beta Fund is really for anyone who is looking at a very long-term range. So your time horizon has to be long, and it's different from someone who is probably putting money in the money market, who is just only hoping that their money will be safe. You know, their money will just be sitting there and it will grow, but then at not a very significant rate, unlike the Smart Beta Fund. I'm beginning to like the sound of it. Now, coming to you again, Abiodun, what makes investment in the Smart Beta Equity Fund different from buying shares? Because go buy shares. What makes this particular fund different?
What makes investing in Smart Beta Fund different from buying shares is you're giving your funds, your money, to a fund manager. So it's a fund manager that makes the decisions on what to buy and how to manage the investment at time. So it's a fund that is good for people who most likely they don't have time to be able to follow the trend, monitor what's going on in the economy, what's going on in the sectors. For people who feel, oh, this thing might be a little bit complex for me, you're sitting into a fund manager who has been properly trained to be able to make these decisions on your behalf. So that's the difference. And they'll be able to also manage the administrative bit. You don't have to worry about dividend payments and all.
So you mean that for like busy professionals who are not able to monitor, but they still want their money to grow, The Smart Beta Fund is sort of you handing your money to that sort of group of professionals who are able to help you manage this fund and invest in the right things for you, right?
Of course.
Yes. Thank you, Abiodun. Now, coming back to you, Bola, what is the risk profile of this fund, and what's the right or the optimal time horizon that investors should be looking at when they're investing in it? So what's the risk profile? And then what's the optimal time horizon that investors should be looking at when they put money in this fund, the time that they know that my money will start to generate something?
So by nature, the risk profile of the Smart Beta Fund is high risk, and that's because the fund is predominantly invested in equities, which is a high risk asset class. So based on investments and prospectus, 75% of the fund is invested in equities. So given that over 75% at least is expected to be invested in equities, then it means to a very large extent, volatility, it's a concern. It would be a concern for investors, given the underlying assets for which the bulk of the funds in that the bulk of the assets in the fund is invested in, which are purely equities. So by definition, it's a fund that is targeted towards investors with a high risk appetite. However, the key rule guiding investments generally is that the higher the risk, the higher the returns. But I think where most people get it wrong is taking excessive risk that do not adequately, the returns do not adequately match up with the risks you are taking. So again, with the Smart Beta Fund, you are taking risk. However, the returns you get from the fund will adequately compensate you for the risk you are taking by investing in that fund. In terms of the minimum holding period, I would like to relate this with the money market fund, where you probably have, an horizon of 30 days or a month. But for the Smart Beta Fund, it is expected that you have at least a 90-day holding period. A minimum holding period of 90 days for you to be able to really enjoy that returns associated with long-term investing. So I would say that, for investors who are forward-looking, it's even much better for you to have a longer investment horizon, let's say a year, for you to really enjoy the long-term, benefits of investing in the fund. So I would say that you could have, a minimum period of 90 days, but for a more forward-looking investor, I think having a one-year investment horizon seems to be, a better way of really maximizing, optimizing the returns you get by investing in the fund.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bola. So what you're saying is this is a high risk fund, it's high risk, high reward. And the reason that we say it's high risk is because it's investing a good chunk of the money, 75%, into shares of different companies and equity. That's what it's called. And that you're thinking that the longer term is the best when you're investing in this. So it's not the sort of stock, or you're not the sort of fund you want to buy and get out in 30 days. You really want to have some time to let your money compound very well and let the fund do its magic for your money. Now, I'm going to take another very quick poll before we go to the next question. So guys, be ready for this. Now, the question is, are you still interested in investing in the Nigerian stock market? And I have 3 answers. Yes, I am. No, I am not. And the third is, I would like to know more. So please pick your answers by clicking on which one. Are you still interested in investing or investments in the Nigerian stock market? Yes, I am. No, I am not. I would like to know more. So let's see the answers. Wowza! Overwhelmingly, 70% of us are very interested in investments in the Nigerian market. Only 5% of us are not interested, and another 24% would like to know more. So we are in the right space, peeps. We are in the very right space. Most of us are interested and others are wanting to know more. Just a few of us don't want to know, but I'm sure you want to know. That's why you're on the call. So yeah, we're going to go to our very next question. And this is for you, Abiodun. Now we are bringing it very much home to a lot of us who are probably affected by new policies or the economy and all of those things. So With the current realities of what's happening in the economy, how does government policies such as the recent removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of the exchange rates, how do they impact this fund's performance?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, the government policies recently done by the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to has actually been affecting the performance of the fund positively. Just to break it a little bit down for our people listening to us, let's imagine the subsidy removal. Say you have a company like Total Nigeria PLC. Now, what it means is Total now has a liberty to be able to do business without pegging prices. All they need to do is they have to be competitive, they have to sell more volumes, they have to keep margins healthy and do more business. So what it means is they will, instead of selling at 185 or thereabout, they're selling at 500. The margins are healthy for them. It's direct profits. Now, the fund is invested in equities, companies like Total. So it's investors in the market will see a company like Total and they start buying. So just to give perspective, the oil and gas sector of the industry of the market has actually moved about 30% from the time the announcement was made on May 29th to date. 30% is amazing, right? So this definitely is going to flow through because the fund manager would have exposure in some of these names and you get the benefits and a whole lot. And on the side of the exchange rate thing, banks are sitting on FX. So what it means is if banks are reporting FX at 450 as at December 31st, 2022, and now FX is at 770. For doing practically not so much, you just reprice the FX into profitability. So it shows that banks are making more money. They have their liberty to do more FX transactions because customers will be able to come to them right now to be able to say, oh, I want to buy FX. Rather than say 2-3 months ago, you need FX, you'll be looking for their bookie. So you can easily walk to your bank and say, see, guys, I need FX. So it means there's going to be more income on the side of the banks. The fund has exposure to the banks. So all this is going to aggregate into one, to the benefit of each fund holder. So they have direct implication on the performance of the fund. And the fund is actually doing very, very well right now. Also, it's posted over 30%, I think, from that period till date.
Thank you very much, Abiodun. And I think, wow.
Add to what Abiodun has said. So I think another key thing that investors need to understand is, the composition of the fund correctly. And if you try to overlay that with the implications of the key policy pronouncements from the new administration, I think it's not all positive. Abiodun has spoken extensively on, the positive sides, and particularly for companies in the oil and gas space and the banking sector. But I think if you look at companies within the consumer goods space, you expect that cost of living would almost double from where we were, prior to the removal of fuel subsidy, given the spike in cost of transportation. That would also have ripple impact on the cost of food items in the market because producers would incur more in transporting these goods to the market. So I think, with inflation even at about 22%, the story is not so positive for companies within the consumer goods space. So if you look at the composition of the Smart Beta Fund today, exposure to companies within the consumer goods space is very, very limited. So that also implies that it's more of the positive impact of the policy pronouncements that would have a trickle-down impact on companies within the banking sector and the oil and gas space, which you mentioned. So to a very large extent, I would say that the Smart Beta Fund is relatively immune to, the negative impact of those policy pronouncements, which I think the impact would be more obvious, on the negative side for companies within the consumer goods space. So I just feel that, there was a need to, put that out to investors.
Thank you very much, Bolan, for giving the balance, because if you're definitely not in the banking or in the oil and gas industry, you're probably feeling the pinch like all of us, so it's nice to give us that balance. And it's also nice to know that the fund is able to pivot, as needed to ensure that there's continuous profitability for investors. Now, you spoke about inflation, and I want to just hold you quickly on that to say that when it comes to, the increase in the inflation rate in the last couple of years, how has the performance of the fund been, and what have been the returns despite all of this inflation? I mean, you mentioned that this year alone, we're looking at 22%. So how's the performance of the fund been, and what are the returns?
Yeah, so I think, over the years, the fund has consistently outperformed, inflation. I'll just use, most recent statistics you are familiar with. Inflation between January 2023 and, latest data for May 2023, on the average, inflation stood at 22%. If you look at the performance of the fund as of today on a year-to-date basis, this fund has done about 40%. So you are getting a positive real returns. I can't think of any other investment vehicle or any other fund, in the markets today, be it money market fund or a bond fund, that you would get returns that would match up with what is obtainable with the Smart Beta fund that has delivered about 40% return on a year-to-date basis. So again, this just speaks to the fact that, this fund has also outperformed, not just its benchmark, but it's also generating returns in excess of the current level of inflation. So again, this just lends credence to what I said earlier, that if you are to preserve your wealth over a long-term basis, there is need for you to also sort of improve your appetite for risk. Given that, the fundamental rule of investment is the higher the risk, the higher the return, but it's about taking calculated risk. And for the Smart Beta fund, given the historical performance where it has outperformed inflation, over the past 5 to 6 years, we believe that, on a long-term basis, looking ahead, it is a fund that you can invest in to preserve your wealth on a long-term basis.
Thank you very much, Bolan. And before I go to the next set of questions, I just want everyone, please, 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 put your questions in the chat box. We're going to get to as many as time allows us. So if you have any questions now, please start putting them in the chat box so that we can start answering them once our panelists and our people are done. And while we're doing that, Abiodun, very quickly, when is the dividend on the fund paid to investors, and at what frequency? Dividend is super important. So when is it paid, and at what frequency?
Dividend is usually paid once a year in November on the fund, and once a year in November. But it's always at the discretion of the fund manager. So it's possible the fund manager wants to do discretionary payments as well.
Okay, so once a year, we know that there will be dividends. This is apart from the growth of the fund. You still get some dividends. Double whammy. Please confirm.
Yes.
Dividends, and as well as growth in the price of the fund. Yeah, fantastic. Okay.
Yes, so now quickly, Abiodun said, this year the fund has done quite well. The performance has been quite impressive. We've done about 40% on a year-to-date basis. So I think there's likely going to be another distribution this year. Since inception, we made distributions in 2017 and 2021. We paid 10 naira in 2017 and 21.45 kobo in 2021. So for 2023 this year, in respect of 2022, we expect that there will be another distribution to investors. So, aside the returns you get from the growth in the value of your investment, you also get, distributions in form of, cash to you by investing in the Smart Beta fund.
Fantastic. And while you're saying that, I wanted to actually throw another question to you. Now, comparatively, has the fund been competitive with the major indexes on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, such as the NGX ASI, the NGX 30, NGX Banking? How has the fund been, and has it been competitive with those major indexes that we have in the Nigerian Stock Exchange?
Yeah, so again, let me quickly say that the benchmark for the fund is NGX30, which is simply an index that tracks the 30 most capitalized companies listed on the stock market. And if you look at the benchmark performance today, slightly, ahead of the NGX ASI. So returns for NGX 30 is around, approximately 21% as of close of trading, yesterday. And the fund, like I mentioned earlier, has delivered 40% within that same time period. So again, the fund has also proven to generate far better returns in excess of its benchmark, and like I mentioned earlier, even the current level of inflation. And that's because the stock selection process of the fund requires the use of a scientific model. So we try to sort of do something different relative to what is obtainable from every other equity-based fund you find in the market. So we have some funds that are predominantly invested in equities, but the stock selection process would typically be done on an arbitrary basis. So take, for instance, the usual names you have in the market, the MTNs, the Dangote Cement, you like these names, and at the discretion of the portfolio manager, it decides to allocate funds pulled from investors across these blue chip companies. But for the smart beta fund, there's a scientific model that guides the stock selection process and how our funds are eventually allocated across different companies listed within the stock market. So that model has proven to be very useful in generating much higher returns relative to the benchmark and even competitive returns that have also beaten the level of inflation.
Amazing stuff. And Bola, while you're on that, because you have told us all about this fund, how much do I need to start buying this fund, and where can I buy them? That's the next question. How much and where can I buy it?
Yeah, I think I would like to start with the second question. I would say that you should have bought this fund on May 29, which was, the day of the inauguration of the administration, because, the pronouncement by the new president has really impacted on the equities market. But I think it's not too late. The journey of investment is a long-term journey. So I think it's not too late for you to make, that entry into the fund. And to that extent, the entry point for investing in the fund, we think it is quite appealing, particularly to the retail end of the market. So to invest in the fund as of today, you need just 50,000 naira to invest in the fund. So we think that is a good entry point, which is also quite attractive for investors to invest, in a smart beta fund and the smart beta fund. So at the end of the webinar, I assume that I presume we'll provide the contact details of our relationship manager so that you can get in touch with us. We'll send you the KYC documents you fill, and upon verification of your details, we'll open an account for you and you can transfer funds. And automatically you become an investor in the smart beta fund. So I would say once again that you should have invested as far back as May 29, but the journey of investment is a long-term journey and you can still catch on this running train.
Great stuff. So you're saying that from 50,000 naira, you can start investing in this fund, because I know you said 50K, but that 50K is like its starting point. You can go to billions and all of those things with the same fund, right? You're taking as much as we can, but starting at a relatively nice entry for retail investors at 50,000. Now I'm going to come to you finally, Abiodun. I'm going to ask you this question. For someone like me who is a mom, a lot of us, and I know a lot of parents, fathers, moms, step-parents, whatever, we always worry about our children and we think of, trying to invest money for them, especially in these times when we know that investment is super key. And the earlier we catch them young, the better for us to grow our money. Is this fund, is this something that one can create for minors, for children, for people who are not up to 18 years old? And again, both of you can answer this question for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The fund is suitable for minor. As I said earlier, the underlying assets in this fund are looking at medium to long term. So for a minor, the minor has a very, very long period horizon for you to be able to grow the investment for the child. So this fund is absolutely perfect for minor, because you must be able to also introduce some form of risk into investment for the minor to be able to get better returns.
So you mean that me as a parent now, I can say that I am buying this fund for my son, Jimmy, for his future.
Sure, you can. And it's not just buying at once, you understand. As Bola said earlier, you have to be consistent. You build it up. So over time, you'll be able to look back at what the fund has done and you'll be able to get the benefit of the return.
Okay. Well, do you want to add something else to that?
Yeah, so I think the fund is suited to different segment of investors. I mean, be it retail, institutional, high net worth individuals. I mean, but for retail investors, I mean, those specific segments you mentioned within the retail pockets now, I mean, the young, I mean, vibrant youth, I think this is a fund that is specifically targeted, I mean, towards them. So you can invest, I mean, in this fund with that long-term investment horizon, knowing fully well that, I mean, you are more or less saving, I mean, for the future, and you're also preserving the value of your wealth. So if I can just maybe put some numbers to read, the fund came into inception in 2016. And if you look at the cumulative returns in the fund till date, it has delivered over 190%. So we think, I mean, so if you're an investor that you have a long-term investment horizon, if you have a fund that has given you over 190% within a space of, I mean, 5 to 6 years, we think, I mean, it's unlikely you would find that magnitude of returns from any other investment in the financial market. So again, for the young and vibrant youth, we think this is a fund that is specifically designed to cater for their long-term investment needs.
Fantastical. Thank you so much, Bola and Abiodun. Really appreciate it. Now I'm going to go to the chat, and thank you for helping us break this thing down. Now, I'm going to go straight to the chats now and go to some of the questions that people have dropped for us. I'm going to take this one first. Ayobami says that historically, why has long-term equity investment in Nigeria seemed like not a wise option looking at devaluation and inflationary impact over the years? What present policies or personal strategies, and I believe this has to be investment strategies, are needed to reap a good value in a decade to come, purely on a long-term goal? Ayobami, you are ready for Bolao and Abiodun. It's okay. I know they are capable.
So I mean, okay.
Go on.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that long-term investments has not really been regarded as a wise investment option, in his words. I think, I mean, to a large extent, I mean, investors have not really been patient with long-term investing in the stock market. Today, if you look at the major blue chip companies across sectors, MTN in the telco space, Dangote Cement within the industrial goods sector, in the banking space, the likes of GTCO, Zenith, Access Corporation, UBA. I mean, over the last 5 years, if you compare their share prices with where these stocks are trading today, I think investors who have been patient are definitely reaping the benefits of that long-term investment horizon. So I wouldn't agree with, the view that investors don't really regard equity investment as a wise investment option today, and would rather just opt for maybe other investments, due to other considerations, maybe devaluation in the currency. But again, I think if you're able to exercise patience, invest in fundamentally sound companies, I think on a long-term basis, you definitely enjoy the returns.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Abiodun, you want to add something for us quickly?
Yeah. In addition to what Bolan said, right, the dynamics of the economy changes per time. And over a long period, the dynamics of 2015 is not what we are looking at in 2023. The dynamics of 2020 is completely different from what we had in 2022. Now, this is where the expertise of the fund manager comes to play. Now, you recall Bolan said the fund has minimal exposure to consumer goods. Now, consumer goods sector did not arrive here today. It's a trend. And the fund manager envisaged, made a move and say, oh, this is going to keep happening. I need to get out of this. And reposition the fund for optimal performance. And because of proactiveness, that's what we are seeing in what it is today. Now, I keep telling people, right? I've had the opportunity to interact with quite a number of people. They'll say, "Oh no, I bought that stock. It's not doing well." You bought a stock 10 years ago. You came back after 10 years expecting to meet bags of gold. It doesn't work like that. Wherever you keep your money, that's where your treasure is, and your heart should lie there. So if you are investing in something today, don't just go to sleep unless you are giving the money to, say, a Bolan who is a fund manager, because of course he's getting paid for his services, you know. But smart investing, careful investing over time, I keep telling people, and I can prove it over and over again, that with smart investing, careful investing in equities, you tend to outperform inflation and many other asset classes.
Thank you very much, Abiodun. I'm going to go straight to the next question, which is Adetayo Obafen, who is asking that, can we move existing stock holdings into this smart beta fund?
No, that's not possible. So that's not possible. So the way the fund is structured, I mean, because the fund aggregates resources from a wide range of investors, so the only way you can invest in the fund is by maybe converting part of your sales from the existing shares that you have and then invest in the fund. So you can't transfer 10 units of GTCO, for instance, or 50 units of FBN holding shares into the fund, and you say, oh, you then have, 10 units of FBN and you want to invest directly in the fund with those units. So you have to come in with your cash to invest in the fund, because we just aggregate funds from different set of investors and we then invest in companies listed in the market. So you can invest, by transferring units of shares either in MTN, GTCO, Access Corporation, UBA, Dangote Cement. It does not work that way. So what you can do today, if you want to diversify your portfolio, probably you are just overly concentrated in a few stocks listed in the market, and you want broader array in terms of the number of companies you invest in, what you can do is you can book in some of those gains you have in your portfolio today and then invest in the fund. So by doing that, you ensure that you're able to ensure that you also enjoy the diversification benefits associated with the fund, given that risk, again, is also spread, across companies and even among investors who are invested in the fund.
So what you're saying is, for you to be able to buy this, you cannot transfer these shares or that shares. You need to sell the shares and then take that money and go and, come to every inquest and buy the smart beta fund. Thank you, Bolan. So this next question is from Dr. Emmanuel Moore, and he's asking that before investing in equities through a fund manager, do I have the right to demand confirmation from the fund manager as to its compliance with relevant regulations around AML/CTF/CPF?
Yeah, definitely. So you have the right to demand for that. So we are regulated by Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria, and by virtue of being regulated by SEC, it's expected that we comply with all of these regulations. So on a quarterly basis, we also submit returns to SEC, showing that we're in compliance with all regulations guiding mutual funds in Nigeria. So you can request for that, and of course we're happy to provide that to you.
Okay, thank you. I see a lot of people are asking us questions around how much it is to invest in it. Bolan has told us that it's at a very low rate of 50,000 naira. So it's set at the rate where lots of people can come in at 50,000 naira. That's how you can start out. That's the lowest you can start in to start investing. I think another question is, people are asking, what are the commission rates? What are the rates for investing in this fund? Rates that is deducted for the fund, for the investing in the fund. Do you want to answer that, Abiodun or Bolan?
I think Bolan should take that.
Yeah, so in terms of the management fee that the fund manager imposes on the fund for using his expertise and core competencies in, managing the fund, it is at a very decent, level. We're looking at roughly about 0.5% fee, on the assets within the fund. So we think, the management fee, is not so exorbitant, and that shouldn't be so much of a worry to investors. That about 0.5%.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Bolao. Going to the next question. We appreciate your efforts for this. And for the Smart Beta Equity Fund, does it have a USD denominated part? Do you guys want? Yeah.
Yeah, so currently the fund is entirely invested in Naira denominated assets. So no portion within the fund is invested in USD assets. So it is purely a fund invested in Naira denominated assets. And current NAV for the fund is about 540 million or so. Yesterday. So no portion of that is invested in USD assets.
Okay, thank you very much. I know this person is wanting 40% in dollars, so it's okay. That's why they're asking. Another question is from Bolanle Ola, and this person is asking that, can we liquidate at any time? And are there charges for liquidating?
Yes, you can liquidate at any time. You can come into the fund today and decide in the next 2-3 days to liquidate. So no charges associated with that. There's free entry and exit into the fund without any form of restrictions. But okay, again, I would like to emphasize that try to have that minimum investment horizon of at least 90 days for you to really enjoy the long-term returns associated with investing in the fund.
Okay, thank you very much. And this person is also, Kolawale is asking that, I want to know about additional subscription to the fund after my initial investment. So am I able to, of course, buy this maybe monthly or daily, all of those things?
Yeah, so you can, after your initial subscription into the fund, you can subscribe subsequently. So you can subscribe for as much as you want after your initial subscription. So again, no limit on how much you can subscribe into the fund after your initial investment or initial subscription into the fund. In fact, you can come in on a daily basis as you wish. So you can begin to maybe pull funds from other investments and invest in the fund on a daily basis. That's also very much possible.
Wow, just be dropping it. We're ready for you. The fund managers are ready, waiting for you to drop it. Okay. This other question says that, and it's from an anonymous attendee, this person is asking that, is this fund different from other FBN products like money market, balance fund, etc.? All these funds sort of promise good returns, but the performance has not been super encouraging. I just need a little more help in understanding and just a little more convincing.
Yeah, so they're all mutual funds, and I would say the key similarity across all our mutual funds is the fact that we aggregate funds from different segments of investors. So be it retail investors, institutional investors, high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals. We aggregate funds from these investors and then invest in assets. But the key distinguishing feature would then be, the nature of assets that we invest in. So for the Smart Beta Fund, again, predominantly invested in equities, about 75% invested in equities at the minimum. If you look at another product within FBN Quest Asset Management, the money market fund, that is a fund that is predominantly invested in money market instruments. So again, the key distinguishing feature across all the funds that we manage is based on the underlying assets that they invest in within the fund.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take 2 more questions before we have to say bye to everyone, to Abiodun and to Balara and to everyone joining. But before that, 2 more questions. The first one is from Godfrey Okafor, and he's asking, will my fund manager discuss to me where my money will be invested before I start investing?
Yeah, so I think, to a very large extent, disclosure requirements of the fund, can be obtained from the monthly fact sheet. So we publish the performance of the fund on a monthly basis in our fact sheet. So from that fact sheet, you can gain insights on, how the fund is invested, between equities and, of course, the balance of 25% in the money market instruments, as well as, the current performance of the fund relative to the benchmark, and you can also compare the performance of the fund relative to the current level of inflation. So disclosure requirements, we think it's intact. You can always get that from our monthly fact sheet that provides, broad overview of the current performance of the fund and every other information you need with regards to understanding the investment, how our funds have been deployed across different assets within the fund.
Okay. And our final question for this evening, can I invest on the smart beta fund via your Edge app?
Yes, it's very much possible. I think, this is coming from an investor that is familiar with our brand. So, you can invest directly in the fund through the use of that app. Very much, correct.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Abiodun and Bola, for being very honest, very open, very nicely explaining everything to us. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much to every single person who has joined us today on the call. We have over 150 people who joined us today. And thank you for staying to the very end. It shows that our conversation was very engaging, enriching, and very, very importantly, this conversation was going to add money to your pockets, because, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that you grow your money. So thank you for joining us on this edition of Leading Conversations with FBN Quest, and where we focused mainly around sustainable growth in these investments. We hope you found it very informative, and we look forward to engaging with you further and to take advantage of the opportunities that we have recently shown you. Now, we have several more insightful, relevant topics that we are planning for the coming weeks and months. So you definitely want to follow us on our social media platform, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all have the same title, FBN Quest, at FBN Quest today. So please don't miss it. Make sure you go follow FBN Quest on all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, everywhere. FBN Quest is there for you. And if you have any immediate questions or you need any support, kindly send an email to webinars@fbnquest.com, and we will be very happy to guide you towards your goal. We wish you a very, very safe and productive evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and I hope that you enjoyed this session very, very much. Look forward to it. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Anila. Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Balao. Thank you, Abiodun. Bye.
This is Mo. She works hard every day to make our solutions better for you. But she's not alone. Mo is part of a system, an ecosystem, working together to make sure everything runs smoothly. There is Mo in Human Resources, who just hired Mo the intern. She is excited about new possibilities. Mo in Finance and Legal and Risk Management. Mo in Customer Services and General Services and Trade Services. Mo in FBN Quest Trustees helps Mo, one of her favorite customers, secure her legacy in a trust that will live long beyond her years. Mo from Wealth Management helps Mo decide the right investments to grow her fortune. Mo discusses with her personal financial advisor from FBN Quest Asset Management, who uses real insights to provide solutions that are exactly right for you. And from Mo, who has just invented an app that will change the future. Mo from the investment banking team is helping her raise financing so she can scale across Africa. So who is Mo? Mo is you. Mo is us. All of us with hopes and dreams, which is why our solutions are shaped by your goals. Mo is FBN Quest, and we are powered by people.